What's up, guys? It is so hot in my apartment right now. I'm cooking in more ways than one, but it's time to go. We got Draft League content to bring to you. As I'm recording this, the Teal Mask comes out in like half an hour, and I'm playing the set tomorrow. So I want to get this part out of the way, be ready to record the set itself tomorrow, and spend what other time I have that's available playing through the Teal Mask and getting ready for Regulation E. This week we're taking on the Paldea Pancakes, and it's going to be tough. Right off the bat, you can see this is the team I was talking about earlier that got Berserker as an untiered pick, because as far as I'm aware, my best guess is the staff just forgot to put it in a proper tier. And to be honest, well, okay, they also have, of course, given Berserker strong Steel-type teammates, Iron Treads is actually a pretty solid offensive Pokemon, and Corviknight can play an offensive game, but it can also go bulky, and it's one of the most reliable Tailwind setters, and overall pretty hard to remove from the field. Plus, Mirror Armor is an annoying ability, right? At first glance, I thought the rest of the team looked kind of weird. Like, okay, the Steel spam I understand, but there are also a lot of Ghost types on here. More than I realized, actually. There are 4 Ghost types on here. And this is the part that I was starting to get at earlier. At first, I thought, this is kind of a weird, unbalanced roster, but on closer examination, it's really not, right? So when you have all these Steel types, you want to build out probably a Fairy Dragon Steel core, and they have a very good one. Salamence is a very strong Dragon type. It has a lot of high stats. It obviously can be used as a physical attacker, maybe even with Moxie. You can run it bulky with Intimidate. It even has a pretty respectable special attack stat and pretty respectable special attack move pool, and I believe it also gets Tailwind. Yes, it does. So there's a second Tailwind setter for their team. And then they have Iron Valiant. I know now Iron Valiant, it has always been kind of an underwhelming Pokemon in VGC. I've tried a few times to use it myself, and I've always found that, although it seems very appealing because there are so many roles that it can fill, it's never the best option for any particular role. There's always something that better suits what I want it to be doing. But in Draft, I think it actually should be a very good Pokemon, because you're not going to get the best thing for any given role, and having that kind of role flexibility is very strong from week to week as you go through different matchups. I have no idea what kind of Iron Valiant set they're going to bring, and preparing for a lot of different sets was one of the most difficult challenges of preparing for this team. And I'm sure I haven't covered everything, though I've done my best. Then you have, as well as the Fairy Dragon Steel core, you also have a Fire Water Grass core that looks pretty interesting as well. So Bramblegast, as the grass type, is of course buffed by Tailwind, and they have 2 good Tailwind setters in Corviknight and Salamence, both bulky and Salamence fairly fast. So getting Tailwind off should not be a significant problem for this team. And then they buff their Bramblegast. They also pair that with Houndoom. Now, with all the Steel types as well as Bramblegast, they have a lot of fire weaknesses. Houndoom, of course, gets Flash Fire, so it's a very strong switch into fire types. And while it's not a bad attacker, it also has a lot of those moves that sort of give the dark type its name as being the tricky, dirty fighting type, right? It gets Sucker Punch, I think it gets Snarl, it gets Howl. It has a surprisingly good, it gets Will-O-Wisp, but has a surprisingly good support move pool as well as offense. Plus, with its fire attacks powered up by Flash Fire, it can easily be a threat. Basculin is probably the least impressive part of these cores, but it's still a pretty strong Pokemon and one that I have to watch out for as well. And then rounding out their team, right, they have Sableye for Prankster support with moves like Will-O-Wisp and Taunt, but of course the most notable thing with Sableye is Quash. So if the speed control game is going against them somehow, even with their very reliable Tailwind setters, this is a huge threat to slow down, to delay the action of one of my Pokemon and give the advantage to, any of the strong attackers on this team. Iron Valiant, Iron Treads, Bramblegast, Basculin, Salamence. This is just a team of threats, right? Then you have Poltegeist, which is also a threat with Shell Smash. Plus, I think it gets some strong support options as well. I know it gets Strength Sap. And, it's just occurring to me right now, they can also do Tea Time stuff with berries. That gimmick might well have some use in draft matchups. And then I don't really know what Mischievous does for this team, but I think that Mischievous is probably just objectively the best Pokemon in Untiered, other than, certain someone. I drafted Mischievous last season just because I thought it was the best Pokemon in Untiered. These are no Fluttermane stats, but there's some usable stuff here. It has a solid support Ghost type stereotypical move pool. Of course, it can run an Eviolite because Mismagius exists. So I don't really know what Mischievous does specifically for this team, but I think it's a respectable Pokemon, and I think that there's not a single Pokemon on this team that I can just disrespect and ignore, which is really impressive on a team with 2 untiered Pokemon. And I know that Pancake is a good player as well, so this should be difficult. One thing that I thought about a lot when I started to build my team was speed control. It is tricky in this matchup for a couple of reasons. First, my Noivern is the fastest unboosted Pokemon in this matchup, and it's also my Tailwind setter. So potentially, if the situation is right, I can grab a big advantage right off the bat, set Tailwind, get a strong attack off with like Urshifu or something, and I could be in a good spot. But my opponent has 2 Paradox Pokemon that can both boost their speed to become faster than Noivern, and I don't have any Paradox Pokemon on my roster at all. I think there's a very good chance that I face a speed-boosting Iron Valiant or speed-boosting Iron Treads. I don't know which, but I think they'll probably bring one of them, and I'll have to find a way to play around that. I also considered bringing Trick Room into this matchup. I mean, I guess I did bring Trick Room. I think I brought Trick Room, right? Yeah, I did. So it's possible that I get into a situation where setting Trick Room is kind of a late game win condition. I thought about bringing an actual proper Trick Room mode, but the thing is, and I think it would have been doable if they went super fast with Tailwind, Booster Energy stuff, but Dark and Ghost are both very strong attacking types into my opponent's roster. Every roster has some weaknesses, right? And Dark and Ghost type attacks are pretty obvious weaknesses for theirs, especially Ghost because Iron Valiant double resists Dark. And so I knew that I wanted Urshifu and Zoroark trying to do some damage for my team, and those are just not my best Trick Room Pokemon, right? Zoroark is one of the faster Pokemon on my team, and Urshifu is, you know, below 100 base speed, but not by very much. It's also a little on the quicker side. And I figured I could make a workable Trick Room mode with these guys if my opponent brought the right stuff to try to outspeed them, but it's tricky to pull off. And so in the end, I did something like what I did last week, where I brought a combination of fast offense and a combination of bulky gameplay. And so we'll start with the speedy side, even though I didn't bring my speed. I ended up using my speedy side last week. So we have Focus Sash Noivern with Tailwind, Dragon Pulse, Flamethrower, and Protect. This Noivern is faster than any unboosted Iron Valiant. If they run Booster Energy for speed on Iron Valiant, there's not really anything I can do to be faster than that, except a Choice Scarf, which would be very awkward if I'm trying to set Tailwind. So I have the Focus Sash to make sure that Noivern can still take a hit from a speed-boosted Iron Valiant or speed-boosted Iron Treads. Why did I go with Terra Fire? It obviously resists Steel. It also resists Fairy. And it also, well, Noivern already resists Grass and Fire. So the Steel and Fairy resistances, yes, those would be why I went with Terra Fire. Dragon Pulse and Flamethrower is a strong combination of attacks into this matchup. Now that I think about it, maybe it would be worthwhile to bring Draco Meteor instead of Dragon Pulse, because Noivern is probably going to set Tailwind first and not last very long after that. So maybe I want big damage quickly over consistent damage, although if they switch around between their Steel and Fairy types, it might be best to preserve Noivern's special attack stat and take advantage of any tempo that I get from that. Flamethrower, of course, can hit the Steel types pretty hard. So I think Noivern's set is fine as it is. Then going along with that, we have Choice Scarf Urshifu. This was actually the last set that I filled out for this team, and I went back and forth on whether I wanted to run Scarf. I went back and forth on a few details, actually. I found it hard to figure out a specific Urshifu set for this matchup, because the thing is, the opponent has significant threats that are faster than Urshifu. Things like Salamence, things like Iron Valiant, and Iron Treads. So, getting the jump on them with a Scarf, I'm also assuming in a lot of my prep that we probably both have Tailwind up. This Noivern should fairly reliably get Tailwind up if that's the mode I bring, but there's not a lot I can do to deny Tailwind. I suppose I could have run Taunt Noivern, but I think they'll prepare for that. And also it would have cost a move slot. Not really obvious which one I would want to drop. Right. So making Urshifu faster than their threats with a Choice Scarf, I decided was fine. Wicked Blow is also very spammable into their team, except it gives free turns to Iron Valiant like crazy. So I'm going to have to be careful about how I play around Iron Valiant while I'm using Urshifu. But otherwise, I think Wicked Blow just kind of pops off. Iron Head is here to hit Iron Valiant. Sucker Punch can deal with something like a boosted Poltegeist that's extremely fast, or a situation where they have Tailwind up but I don't. Close Combat, I don't know, it's the other stab. It might hit one of the Steel types hard at some point or something, right? I considered Terra Poison on Urshifu, even though I have Iron Head. So I have Iron Head because it gives better coverage than Poison Jab into this team. But I nonetheless was considering Terra Poison on Urshifu because that type resists both Fairy and Fighting, so both of the obvious things that Iron Valiant might try to do into it. If I get into a situation where I badly want Urshifu to take a hit, that's probably the safer way to go than Steel. In the end, though, I went with Terra Dark because Urshifu is here to try to outspeed everything and spam Wicked Blow, and so maximizing damage on Wicked Blow I figured was the best possible use of its Terra type. Zoroark then has Hyper Voice, Bitter Malice, Will-O-Wisp, and Protect. There's nothing too complicated here. Ghost type attacks are pretty spammable into the opposing team. Terra Ghost makes it hit that little bit harder. Bitter Malice is not much weaker than Shadow Ball. It's only like 5 base power weaker, yeah. And the opponent has a lot of physical attackers, so I thought I might get more utility out of this. Hyper Voice rounds out the coverage. Life Orb to boost the damage. I'm not really using it anywhere else here. Will-O-Wisp again because they have a lot of physical attackers. Then we get to the bulky part of the team, starting with Qwilfish. So Qwilfish I think is my best all-around answer to Iron Valiant. I have nothing that perfectly covers Iron Valiant. Iron Valiant gets Psychic type attacks on both sides of the spectrum, and Qwilfish is weak to that. But Qwilfish resists Fairy and Fighting. It's not weak to like a knockoff coverage option. And between Intimidate and the Assault Vest, I should give it and also all this HP investment, I should give it decent mixed bulk to take on any particular Iron Valiant set that they bring. So this is not a perfect counter to Iron Valiant, but I think it's the absolute best that my team can do at answering everything, at answering as many Iron Valiant sets as possible. And this is my basic Assault Vest Qwilfish set. I ran this a bunch in Season 2. Sometimes I've had like Fell Stinger or something here, but I think you really only need Liquidation, Poison Jab, Aqua Jet, and Terra Blast if you need the coverage, which I don't here, for attacks. And then Icy Wind is just an obvious utility speed control move that can maybe help me play around a Booster Energy Iron Valiant or something. Water for the Terra type, because there wasn't really a defensive Terra type that I felt like I needed here, and Water will give it a stronger Aqua Jet in a potential clutch situation. And I talked a lot about Iron Valiant, but again, they have a lot of physical attackers on their team. I can throw Intimidate at most of them. I just have to watch out for Corviknight. Uxie. This Uxie set feels pretty uninspired. I actually was thinking at one point about bringing Manual Psychic Terrain to shut down Sableye Prankster, but that just felt very awkward to try to use. Instead, I have a Mental Herb to block Taunt once, and I have Terra Dark if I decide that's the best use of my Terra type at some point, because it covers most of Uxie's weaknesses, all but the Bug one, and Prankster Taunt will no longer work on Uxie once it becomes a Dark type. I have Mystical Power to hit things for some damage. I actually played all of last week without knowing that Mystical Power is below 100 accuracy. I've only realized that while I was building this team. I brought Trick Room because, again, I think the speed control in this matchup is tricky, and I think that it's good for me to preserve the option of a late game Trick Room in a situation where my opponent has Tailwind up, or speed boosted Paradox Pokemon up, or a random Scarf User or something, and going slower is actually the best win con for me. Finally, Yawn is just, it's a pretty uninspired pick. It just is a disruptive move that can get in the way of them running some crazy setup with something like Poltegeist or Corviknight, or even Salamence with Dragon Dance or something. If they try to go that route with their if they try to go that route with their game plan, then I can at least disrupt it with Yawn. Or, Yawn can just keep them switching while I try to hit things hard with these guys, if I bring Uxie along with them or something like that. And finally, of course, for this Steel Spam matchup, we have Floette. Just kidding, we have Orthworm here with Earth Eater. With Earth Eater, it resists or is immune to both of Iron Tread stabs, to Berserker's stab. Obviously, it resists grass and both the Corviknight stabs. So it's something that I can throw at their physical attackers. to slow things down and maybe try to set up with Coil. I went with Coil over Iron Defense because I thought that Iron Head was valuable to have into all their ghost types. I don't want to rely only on Body Slam for Orthworm's damage. And you can see I've gone with a setup Orthworm instead of some Shed Tail stuff. I didn't really have a game plan for Shed Tail in this matchup. I thought that defense boosting plus body press plus something to hit the ghost types was the way to go. And maybe Iron Defense would still be better because it gets more survivability that much more quickly. But I think that it should be a pretty solid bulky guy in this matchup. Even with just Coil, and then boosting Iron Head is useful as well. So if I play a slower, bulkier game plan, I have Quillfish mitigating damage, I have Yuxi tanking hits. By the way, I put like no thought into Yuxi's EVs. I thought I might run some calcs to come up with something more sophisticated, but I don't think I'm going to have time for that at this point because the Teal Mask comes out in 15 minutes. I have potential damage mitigation with Zoroark. I have Urshifu demanding the opponent's attention. I think there are a number of possible opportunities in this matchup to set Orthworm up. And especially with Terra Fire into something like Houndoom, once I get it properly set up, it's hard for them to remove quickly, and so this could be a win con, depending on the mode I bring, and if these first three don't just beat down their team. So I don't really have a specific game plan for this one like I did last time. I don't really have a strong understanding of what I think my opponent is going to bring, because they have so many strong cores and so many flexible options they can go with. I mean, I'm sure that Iron Valiant is coming, but I don't know what they're going to bring around it to support my team, to support it into my team. So I'm definitely going to be playing it by ear at Team Preview, but I've given myself a couple of different skeleton game plans that I can work with. I can go fast and offensive. I can go slow and bulky. I've given myself a few different ways to handle the speed control game with Scarf or Shifu, with the fastest Tailwind setter in the matchup, holding a Focus Sash, and with even a possible Trick Room on Yuxi. And I guess this is kind of the Draft League equivalent of good stuff. So I've brought a lot of things that are strong into this matchup. Bulky Orthworm, AV Quillfish, Dark and Ghost attacks, fast Tailwind, and hopefully I'll find the right combination that works for the particular matchup I get at Preview. But that's about all that I can say about this at this point. So I'm going to stop recording. I'm going to try to scarf down some food before the Teal Mask comes out in 13 minutes, and I'll see you for the battle. We're back. It's the next day. I'm enjoying the Teal Mask. It's still about 30 degrees in my apartment. But hopefully my brain is not too cooked because it's time. And I actually started talking before I looked over the opponent's team, so let's see what we've got. Iron Valiant, Houndoom, Salamence, Sableye, Corviknight, and Basculin. So I keep catching myself wanting to say Basculegion. So potentially a lot of speed control here with the Quash Sableye. Either one of the flying types could have Tailwind. There's no Iron Treads. I still think that the Iron Valiant probably has booster energy for speed, but we'll find out. I didn't bring Psychic Terrain, so I really don't have a way to play around Quash, except that Urshifu is immune. And I guess Yuxi is immune if I Terastalize it, but that's a significant investment, and Yuxi doesn't do much back. In fact, it can't do any damage to Sableye. What do I want to do here? This is the problem with not game planning as much as I did last time. Well, they have potentially 4 physical attackers. I mean, Valiant, Salamence, really nothing here has to be a physical attacker except Basculin. I think I need to not keep my opponent waiting, that's for sure. I think I need to pick a lane. I kind of like Quillfish here, except the Corviknight with Mirror Armor is a problem. I think I do bring Quillfish. I don't think I lead with it. Spamming Wicked Blow from Urshifu. They did bring both of their Dark Resists. No surprise there. Let's just try going fast game 1. Let's do Zoroark, Noivern, Quillfish, Urshifu. Disguising Zoroark as Quillfish is not very convincing because, of course, it doesn't have Intimidate. Okay, it's Scarf Iron Valiant and Dragon Fang Salamence. Scarf Iron Valiant. That means that they can't deny my Tailwind. Because the Iron Valiant can get a hit off, but Noivern will survive with the Focus Sash, and Salamence is definitely slower than Noivern. So, do I just double protect here and try to see what the Iron Valiant will do? I don't, like... Because... Or do I just Bitter Malice the Valiant right off the bat? I'm going to double protect. I'm going to see whether it uses a physical or special. Whoa, no, no, no. I'm not going to double protect. Whoa, no. The Salamence could be setting Tailwind. I need Tailwind this turn. I am going to... Bitter Malice, Iron Valiant, and set Tailwind. Icy Wind. They did have a way to deny Tailwind. I did not think of that. Well, okay, it doesn't deny Tailwind. But... yeah, that Bitter Malice feels a little silly now. And they knock out my guy. Okay, I mean, Quillfish is pretty free here, but... Quillfish is pretty free here. The Iron Valiant is locked into Icy Wind. It's also taken a lot of damage. I still would like to get rid of it before Urshifu comes in. I think there's a good chance it switches out here, huh? What can switch in for the Iron Valiant? The only water resist that can switch in is Basculin. So I think I can Liquidation the Iron Valiant slot and protect Noivern. Do I need to protect Noivern? I have Tailwind up. So that works out to net +1 speed, so it's faster than Iron Valiant. Liquidation the Iron Valiant slot, and I will... This is the only... I could Poison Jab the Iron Valiant slot and Flamethrower into a possible Corviknight. But let's get damage on Salamence. Okay, Corviknight comes out on that side. They let me knock out Iron Valiant. I need to slow down. This is a tough matchup, and I'm not really thinking it correctly much of the time here. Did we see Corviknight's ability? No, so it doesn't have pressure. So it probably has Mirror Armor. I never fully understood that ability, but I think that means that Icy Wind is bad play here. I have 2 turns of Tailwind left. They have no Dragon Resist that can switch in, because Corviknight's already in. So Dragon Pulse into Salamence is pretty safe. I mean, they could protect Salamence. Maybe I protect here, trying to read that. I don't really want to switch. They've got 2 flying type attacks that could easily laser beam into this slot. So I'm just going to Poison Jab Salamence. Maybe I'll poison it. Terra Dark Salamence. Noivern protects. Okay, yeah, so they were ready. I mean, it's kind of the most obvious weakness of their team that Dark type attacks are pretty spammable, as well as Ghost. So it's no surprise that they were ready for that. But hey, I tried, right? And their stuff's going to be faster now. I think this is... I don't think we're winning this game, but let's give it, let's give it an honest effort. Aqua Jet the Mence. Dragon Pulse. Now it protects. Okay. Corviknight gonna get rid of something? It's just gonna go for Bulk Up. I don't think I know its item, right? They didn't lead with it. It's not leftovers. What's the betting that it's like Ockaberry or something? My opponent's now the only one with Tailwind. I'm sure they're going to keep it that way. What I can do is... I think they're going to try to knock my Noivern out here. So I can Poison Jab the Salamence and protect Noivern again. Yeah, they go for Dragon Claw. Brave Bird does a lot into Quillfish, but doesn't KO. Poison Jab doesn't poison. I'll make the Aqua Jet play again, and they're not going to let me set Tailwind, but it doesn't hurt to try. This is the last turn of their Tailwind, so that's something. I have a lot of bulk on my Urshifu, and I'm obviously going to Terrasilize it at this point. So maybe it takes a hit from Corviknight. I don't know. There's a lot of damage on the Salamence. The Corviknight is the Tailwind setter. I actually did have that mixed up. So if I get Urshifu in on the next turn, which I'm sure I will... They're playing like they have Houndoom in the back, I think. Well, yeah, because they're letting me get damage on their Dark Resists. So... You know, I actually don't... I keep thinking I'm going to lock into Wicked Blow. The problem is Corviknight. I keep thinking I'm going to lock into Wicked Blow, and that means the defense boost on Corviknight doesn't matter. Because it's always a crit. Do I need to lock into Close Combat? But the other thing is if I lock into Close Combat and they actually have Sableye in the back, I just lose. Got some chip on Salamence. Overrun goes down. Qwilfish goes down. Okay, I'm gonna Terrasilize and lock into Wicked Blow. I haven't played well enough to know whether that's gonna work. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. And I'm gonna hit Corviknight first, because that's their Tailwind setter. Salamence goes for Protect into Unseen Fist. That's interesting. We get rid of Corviknight. It is Houndoom. There's a lot that Houndoom can do to win this game, I suspect, but better to fight one opponent than two, so let's attack Salamence. Hope this KOs. Okay. That does too much damage. There's no way. Oh, there was almost a way. Alright, GG. In game one, Pancake. That was a good one. I felt like I was on the back foot for a long time there, but I played to my out, and... I mean, it doesn't get much closer in the end. Okay, so they spammed Dark types into me, Dark Resists into me, which makes sense when I have a game plan centered on Urshifu. So... I want to bring Orthworm, I think. I mean, the Houndoom is a problem for Orthworm, but... It's a little hard to see a case for... Actually, it's not that hard to see a case for Yuxi, because it can just sit there and yawn. I have a ton of physical bulk on it, because I didn't put much thought into the EV spread. I don't know what the Iron Valiant has, except Icy Wind. And then what do I bring in the back? Do I bring Zoroark? Don't hate that. Urshifu is good. It's obviously strong here. It's just the... I'm going to try Yuxi, Orthworm, Qwilfish. Yuxi, Orthworm, Qwilfish, and... The Houndoom kind of... I mean... I don't know how well it takes a Hyper Voice. It didn't take that Wicked Blow very well. But obviously survived. I'm going to bring Urshifu. I don't feel great about this, but it's a tough game no matter what. We're just gonna go for it. Yuxi will try to enable Orthworm to set up. I do have a lot of special bulk on Orthworm and Terra Fire, so it might be able to overcome the Houndoom. It's a bit of a matchup problem for if they go Salamence Corviknight heavy again. The Iron Valiant is a wild card. And then Qwilfish is still pretty strong here, and Urshifu tries to clean up. They led Sableye. Man. What do I do with lead Sableye? I'm worried about it burning Orthworm. So I think, even though I was hoping to save the Terra on Orthworm for late game, I think I just do it. I think I just Terra Orthworm and I yawn Sableye. Or I could even set Trick Room. I think I'm going to yawn Sableye, Terra, Coil. Okay. Fake out. Dragon Dance Salamence. I'm going to try to set Trick Room now and protect Orthworm. Hello again. It's the next day. My computer had a fit early in Game 2, and I got no audio for the rest of the set. So I'm back here on a third consecutive day of recording, trying to cover for what we missed. You can watch the game play out, but I'll go over some of what ends up happening anyway. The Sableye turns out not to have Will-O-Wisp at all, which makes Terrifier Orthworm actually a pretty bad play here. And it also turns out not to have Quash. What it does have is Encore, which, as I maybe unwisely admit in the original recording, is a little bit of a weakness of mine. I started playing VGC in Generation 8 when Encore was a lot less relevant, probably the least relevant it's ever been. And it's something that I've never properly gotten used to playing against, and I don't always properly think about how to play around it, which is definitely something I'm now going to have to fix before I face, I don't know, Iron Bundle or Screamtail or something in this league. Because I'm just voluntarily putting the book out there myself, I guess. Anyway, the Sableye does have Encore, and it does have Thunderwave. I try to set up Orthworm and beat their Salamence with it, especially in Trick Room. I think there's even a turn or two here where I just try to fish for an Iron Head flinch, but I don't get it. And the Sableye's Encore is a serious problem. It locks my Orthworm into Protect at some point, and there's not a whole lot I can do. The Salamence crits Orthworm somewhere in here. It's probably coming up soon, actually. Yeah, there it is. I don't know how much that crit really mattered, because I was running a very especially bulky Orthworm set, and you're going to see that if you haven't already seen, you have already seen that it's not doing a whole lot of damage back into Salamence. So I don't know that I was in a position to turn this around anyway, but the crit certainly didn't feel good. But I don't think that it's the end of the world. I'm not going to start complaining that I got badly haxed here or something. Yuxi is at low HP, not really in any position to set Trick Room again. I've basically just kept it alive to sacrifice at some point. I mean, I can try to make a desperation play with it, but there's really not much reason for my opponent to let me pull anything off. And I've tried to, by this point, I've tried to yawn into Salamence to deal with its setup, but they did extremely well at denying the yawn, and I never get the yawn off. I am going to bring Urshifu in later in this game and lock myself into Sucker Punch to try to KO the Salamence. Actually, I think that's coming now. Yeah, so you can see here I take a long time to think about what to do next, and it's because I'm weighing whether to sack Yuxi while I try to make Orthworm playable again, or go straight to Urshifu. What I end up deciding to do is lock into Sucker Punch to try to KO the Salamence, so that I can then switch Urshifu out, sack Yuxi, and lock into something else. But, well, maybe I should just fill time while we wait to see how that turns out for me. I think you can probably guess already where this is going. And I don't know how long I was stopping and thinking here, so I'm just going to say it. The Sucker Punch doesn't KO, and Urshifu goes down with no opportunity to start spamming Wicked Blow or something like that in this game, and then there's just no way for Orthworm to close it out. So, huge credit to my opponent. They get the 2-0 win. In the original recording, I talked about how, I'm pretty sure in the team building part of this video, I go off for a while about how good my opponent's team is, but I still think I might have underrated it. This team just has so many versatile Pokemon and so few obvious weaknesses I don't know why the rest of us all let them get this team. And obviously, you can have the best team in the world, but you also have to pilot it well. But Pancake does that too. Just really thoroughly locking this set down and making it, keeping me on the back foot in every game. So, GG's to my opponent. It doesn't feel great to be just overwhelmingly beaten down like this, but it was a good set. I definitely enjoyed it. The near comeback in game one was exciting, even if, I don't know, they EV'd their Houndoom so that it could never have worked or something. But we're just going to have to come back stronger next week and figure something out if we get this matchup again in the playoffs. But got to make the playoffs first. So, GG's to Pancake. Hopefully I won't have issues recording audio again. At least I got the video. And that's all I have to say at this point. We'll be back next time, hopefully to turn things around.